Standard practice in a karate dojo is the standing, set punching on the spot without any movement. And of course, people are going to say, well, you wouldn't really fight like that. You wouldn't stand with your feet parallel. You wouldn't stand just punching. You'd have to be on the move. And they're quite right. So there we have one of the first and earliest dichotomies of your training is understanding what is exercise and what is function. And so this is what we call an isolation exercise. We're just practicing moving our arms, but we also get to link in the rest of the body. So you're practicing having your feet parallel. You're practicing that pull with your knees, the tilt of the pelvis, the drop of your shoulders and the suspension of the head. And that is all part of posture. And so punching like this tells you something about how that punch would go out and how well supported it is by the rest of your structure. So the way we'll start is by having our hands open and getting people to fold over one knuckle and then the second knuckle and then putting the thumb across a finger and a half or 2 fingers maximum. Let's put the left fist out in front and the right fist back up on your hip. And for this first set of exercises, we're making sure that the elbow is facing the floor. It's not stuck out to the side. People punch and their elbows stuck out to the side. Means they've not engaged their lats and traps. They're not pulling down into the base of the spine, the sacral area, sacrum, and we're not getting the best out of that exercise. The other reason for breaking down, making a punch or making a fist like this is to make sure that all the fingers are engaged in what you're doing. So often as people practice, you get to see the little finger drifting off, and if that's happening, then A, they run the risk of hurting themselves when they're punching the pads, and B, we know that they're not engaged in what they're doing. So their practice must be engaged, and that shows in whether or not they've got their little finger squeezed in. It also helps us to get these 2 big knuckles out to the front. The Seiken, the 4 fist, the name for this shape of weapon, needs to produce these 2 knuckles to the front, and that means that you benefit by having a squeeze on this side of the hand. The further across you push your thumb, the more of a weakness you create in this bone here, as the tendons here and here tighten, and you have a natural groove in the middle of this bone, which if you're impacting too much, by too much we mean in an uncontrolled way, without the fist being formed properly, that's when you end up with things like boxer's break or boxer's fracture. So first exercise, set, practice the punch. Now whether or not you engage the hip, whether there's any movement there, that's for a different day. But the first exercise, the chokuzuki, straight punch, checking that you're getting your elbow aimed to the floor throughout. So the fist's coming out and the elbow is still facing the floor, the hand turns over, tight shoulder because we're still pulling down. If you rotate out to the side, then we're starting to loosen up this area. We hope that we're not going to make anything vulnerable in the act of doing anything in karate, but to open your ribs up, making the little muscles, striated muscles between the ribs open, is a bigger vulnerability than trying to keep the whole thing packed down, packed in a solid body. You don't want to get hit, but if you do get hit, you want a solid body to take that shot. So practice the straight punch, chokuzuki, without movement initially, although that bit has to come in the near future.